Alright, so boom. First and foremost, I'm overjoyed that I actually procrastinated making this video because as of yesterday, the Washington franchise has officially announced that they will be changing the name of their football team. No longer will they be the Washington Redskins. They will be a different name. As for when they'll disclose that new name, nobody knows as of now. But let me give you my thoughts because it seems there's a ton of mixed feelings. A lot of people feel as if, man, they should have never changed the name. What's going on? Everybody's so PC. Nothing's wrong with it. Other people say, well, it's long overdue. And you know what? I had a bit of mixed feelings about it. First, when, they were talking about changing the name. And more importantly, if you do your research, there's actually been lobbying to change the name of the Washington Redskins since the 1970s. It's only because you found out about the recency of it dating back to, I believe, 2013, whatever the case may be. All right. At first, I didn't really care too much about it because I did not quite understand, the origin of it. But after doing a bit of research on, the origin of the word redskin, I understand why the Native Americans and the Indians would lobby to get rid of the name Redskin. Now, I know a lot of people like to quote this, Washington Post poll from 2016 that said 9 out of 10 Native Americans actually aren't offended, nor do they care about the name Redskin being used by the Washington franchise. Well, first and foremost, when we take that into account, you must first ask yourself, 9 out of 10 natives say they don't care. How many individuals were polled? Well, that's 504 to be exact. How many natives exist in the United States? Over 5 million. So if you poll 504 to 5 million, the percentage is extremely low. Now, since we're going based off polls and we're not taking into account the percentage of actual people who have been, interviewed or questioned about how they feel about the name, I believe it was California University at Berkeley, or however the hell you pronounce that university. They did a poll earlier this year, and they asked people who are Native American, how do they feel about the name? 49% said it was rather offensive, and more importantly, those who practice Native American heritage and things of that nature. I mean, people who are much more, in tune with their culture, not people who just so happen to be descendants of those, but those who really do practice, the heritage of Native Americans. 67% said that they find it offensive. So now, why do we select one poll and say, well, this one we defend because it backs our theory, but we ignore this one because it's against our theory? The name should have been changed years ago. Moreover, if you look at Daniel Snyder in 2013, he had this to say, where he said he would never change the name of the stadium under no circumstances. Well, Daniel Snyder, now that your pockets started to get affected, because before all of the pushback was simply from the people. Ultimately, people can make petitions, people can make a whole lot of noise, but if you don't have enough numbers to, cause a huge steep in that bottom line, it's not really going to affect the organization. It wasn't until you saw Amazon say they're no longer going to be selling Washington apparel, when you saw FedEx come out and say that they wanted to take their name off of the stadium, did Daniel Snyder finally come out and make a statement. The name should have been changed a long time ago, but if you look at when they first came out, I believe it was 1972. I think a circle, a conglomerate of Native American activists actually went to meet with the Washington president to speak with him about changing the name of the team. If you recall, football history, 72, that being the year after, that being the first year that the Redskins actually went to the Super Bowl. I believe they lost to the Miami Dolphins, that being the perfect season. So this team was actually thriving at the time. It's not as if, oh, well, we suck, nothing's going on, now people are complaining. You were at the height of your franchise's, you at the apex of your franchise's history up until that particular point, and people still wanted the name to be changed. Something playing? Something is playing in the background? What the hell is that? This is ridiculous. I'm trying to record, man, extra noise coming out of nowhere. But as you see, just Adonis don't edit nothing. I'm gonna keep that son of a bitch in there. But regardless, in the 1990s, right after they won their third Lombardi trophy, still, the individuals who were heads of the Native American activists, they showed up as well, still lobbying to get the name changed. But they continued to be denied up until we finally get to this point where change is actually happening. I'll ask you this, for the people who seem to be offended about it, majority of them don't even happen to be natives. They're just people who aren't even really fans of the Redskins either. It's just you don't want anybody to succumb to the pushback. You don't want anybody to surrender to, you know, the machine of people who want things to be changed. That's what the real outrage is about. Nobody wants anything to change because it feels like, man, what happened to our country? We're submitting to the pushback of these people. Why are they so upset? There's nothing to be upset about. Nobody I know is offensive. But you're not native. If the natives wanted to be changed, the Indians wanted to be changed because it's a slur against them, let them change it. Just let them change it. Because I can guarantee you, God damn it, somebody call me right now. I bet that's Dan Snyder. Why are you talking about what's going on with my organization? We didn't approve the Chiseled Adonis to be speaking about my team. I'm gonna get Nancy on the phone. She's gonna cancel him! About 2014, 2013, if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Snyder actually donated to the natives and different sort of organizations because of the pushback, and in an effort to get them to silence themselves. Like, all right, I'll pay for these things, I'll put this money on your books, but it has since declined and gone downwards over the years. I think he started out with like a lump sum of 4 million, 3.5. I'm gonna end up finding the article and throwing it in there anyway. And then as the years progressed, it dropped down to like 1.6, 1.7, then it was in the 100,000s, and last year it was zero. He was only paying these organizations to keep them quiet about their pushback about the name. This guy actually just doesn't want to change the team name despite how people feel about it. He only made the change when the bottom line got affected. Overall, if you look into the history of the name, Redskin, it is a slur. It has derogatory, nefarious intent. It doesn't matter if you, the name was the name was made to bring light to to the natives in a positive sense. You could have used a different word. You didn't have to use Redskin. A lot of people are saying, well, what's next? We gonna change Cowboy or maybe the Chiefs? There's a huge difference in the Chiefs name because the origin of the Chiefs name for that team was named after, one of the minority owners, if I'm not mistaken. I'll probably find an article and throw up his name over here. His nickname was the Chief. The name had nothing to do with the natives, although they did adopt native practices during their stuff, the tomahawk chop, and I think there's a little bit of controversy regarding that. I'm not well versed on the tomahawk chop, but if it's a lot of people are saying it's a bit racist. Other people are saying it's not that big a deal. I'm not too sure. Who knows? Maybe down the line I'll make a video about that after I do my research on that. But with the Cowboy name, the Chiefs name, those are more positions, not an actual, person. You have to become a chief. Redskin, it was it was affiliated and attached to anybody who happened to be Indian or Native. I'm not understanding why it's not that hard to understand. I don't get why there's such a huge pushback about it. Facts. Despite the pushback, there are some prominent natives who actually aren't offended by the name nor the logo. In fact, the son of the logo's designer says that it's not offensive to him, and he feels as if it's a very tough sell to get rid of the logo and the name and its likeness. In fact, the Blackfoot, representatives of the Blackfoot tribe, they actually performed at Redskins games before. This whole situation reminds me a lot of what's happening with Aunt Jemima, where they're removing the likeness of Aunt Jemima from the syrup because of the racist connotation and the black slave maid and things of that nature from back in the day. But if you see the representative, or I should say the individual who is the representation of Aunt Jemima, their family is completely against the name change, completely against the removal of the image because it represents a bit of their individual family. But the same way that I feel about that is the same that I feel about with the son of the logo developer, because you individually have a tie to the team, have a tie to the image that's being used doesn't mean that your, connection there is the same as everybody else's.
It's hard. It's disheartening. I think it takes away from the Native Americans, from my opinion, because that logo represented who we are and its connections to the Blackfeet Nation. I think there was a opportunity for, educating people across the nation that didn't know about it. That connection is gone now.
If the masses say they want something changed, but you individually don't want it changed because whether there's it's a bit lucrative to you or you have the family ties that's attached to it, everybody else doesn't share that. So you can't actually use that personal sort of experience in order to speak for the people. You can voice your displeasurement, but that doesn't mean that things shouldn't be changed because you personally feel this way.
Absolutely.
And I've been seeing these kind of comments everywhere where people are saying, oh, well, that's gonna fix racism. They changed the name. Oh, it's gonna fix the problems in the country. It's not even that big a deal. Well, it may not be that big of a deal to you, but 25, 50 years from now, people aren't going to remember the Redskins name in bulk. They'll most likely attach the Washington franchise to whatever new name they happen to come up with. Whether they're losing for 50 years or they come back to prominence in whichever amount of decades it may take for them to get there, because they're nowhere near right now, but that's not the conversation we're talking about. Whatever the case may be, progress is progress, even if it's slow. You have to start somewhere. Things aren't fixed overnight, but golly, you could start somewhere. You're not going to have an overnight fix. Oh, you changed the name. Now all of a sudden the relationship between the natives and other individuals in the country is now all so great and things are amazing. But you could just change the name. It ain't that big of a deal, honestly. Just do it! What, you can't wear your Redskins merchandise? How many Redskins fans exist on this half of the millennium? Or I should say this side of the millennium. Everybody else who happen to be Redskins fans, Washington fans, they all left after 99 or 91 when they won that last Super Bowl. Ain't nobody cheering for them. They stands is empty. So the 16 Redskins fans who say, we will boycott, we ain't gonna watch no more, they changed the name. Well, have a lot of fun looking at a black television with nothing on because you never plugged in, your electronic. Everybody else, you're not even fans of the team. The hell you upset about? Bottom line is, took long enough for them to go and change the name. I ain't got no problem with it. It's long overdue. I'm curious to see what sort of name they're gonna come up with. I would like to make suggestions myself. Maybe I'll talk about that down the line. I'm gonna be making fun of it the entire NFL commentary series. Whatever the case may be, it's long overdue. It got done. They changed the name, and as Batista would say, deal with it. And that's all I got to say about that. Here's Batista telling you to deal with it himself.
Deal with it.
Deal with that.
So what's on? Do it! Just do it!
I'll pound you so hard there'll be nothing left of you. That's it, huh?